All right, we got breaking news out of the NBA here on this Saturday. Damian Lillard has requested a trade out of Portland. That's coming from multiple reports. Dame has spent his entire 11-year career with the Trail Blazers and is the franchise's all-time leading scorer. Miami Heat and Brooklyn Nets are expected to be the frontrunners for the 7-time All-Star. In his time in Rip City, as you saw just there, time running out, most points per game by a player 32 years or older. Game time tops that list. But guys like Curry, Jordan, James, and Wilkins, it'll be interesting to see which team he goes to and then the type of impact that he'll have on that squad. All right, let's bring in our Brad Botkin to talk about this breaking news. So you see the news, Damian Lillard, look, it's been floated out there for quite some time, Brad, but now that he has requested a trade, what's your reaction to the news?
It's not a surprise to me. When they drafted Scoot Henderson and Joe Cronin came out with the pretty explicit language that he was not going to trade Scoot Henderson, that he felt he was too good to be traded, a position that I agree with. At that point, to me, this became inevitable that Damian Lillard was going to be on the move. You just can't pair two small guards like that in the same backcourt. It's too redundant. It didn't work with McCollum and Lillard. They also have Anthony Simons. It just wasn't going to work. And what I question here, and we might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but when the wind starts blowing this way, Bradley Beal in Washington, Damian Lillard in Portland, these teams need to be willing to get ahead of superstar requests when you can see it happening. Because once it gets to this point, and now we're seeing Damian Lillard come out and say he wants it to be Miami, leverage goes out the window. Teams know you have to get a deal done, and it becomes difficult. This was starting to become something you could see coming for a few years now, but certainly last year, and waiting for the official superstar request really puts you in a tough spot to get the best deal possible coming back.
All right, so there's a lot of follow-ups here, but to your point, let me just follow up on what you just said then. Then in your opinion, why is it hard for teams to not go a year or two early as opposed to being in a position where they don't have as much leverage?
For the obvious reason that nobody ever wants to cut ties with their best player. It is not easy to replace a Damian Lillard. And certainly I don't think the Blazers were in the same spot as the Wizards with Bradley Beal. They should have done Beal years ago. But the idea is still the same. It's difficult to get rid of a player who's still one of the top 10 players in the NBA on any given night, can carry you against any team you've had proven playoff success with. You have to commend these teams from an entertainment standpoint and an overall health of the league, that they don't immediately go to tank jobs and get rid of their best players, and they want to remain competitive even if they're outside the top tier of the championship window. But listen, they have to look ahead and be honest with themselves, because again, when it gets to this point, you can bet, we're here in Miami, is the team now Lillard wants to go to, you can bet that Miami is going to lowball them. I don't think these teams have any obligation to trade these players to the teams that they want to go to. Damian Lillard signed a long-term deal. I think he's got 4 years left on his deal. When he signed that, the Blazers should be making the best deal possible. And that might not be a great deal out there right now. I don't know the situation, but they should not be just completely accommodating these superstar wishes. They almost have to do it in a players' league and player empowerment and all that. But again, I think these teams have to start learning from this. It's only a matter of time before these stars ask out, as soon as it starts going south at all. And so I think you need to get ahead of it.
Speaking of wish lists, it's reported out there that Damian Lillard would like to go to the Eastern Conference, a short list that does include Philly, does include Brooklyn, but really Miami, to your point, seems to be, at least right now, the clubhouse leader and the favorite. Any of those three teams stand out to you? Obviously, you covered the Heat out down here in South Florida. What do you think about the best possible Dame fit?
It's a terrific fit in Miami if they can get it done. I mean, we just talked about it from the Portland perspective of how they can get the best deal possible for them. But for Damian Lillard, if he can get to the Heat without giving up Bam Adebayo, without giving up Jimmy Butler, that's a championship-ready team. Obviously, they were just in the finals without Damian Lillard, with Gabe Vincent starting at point guard. And you have to wonder if behind the scenes, I think it's fairly safe to say that Miami, felt the winds blowing this way. They let Gabe Vincent go. They let Max Strus go. Those are two guys that they value, two guys that helped them, two starters that got them to the finals. And you have to wonder if they kind of knew this was about to come down. They didn't put up too much of a fight for those two guys. Philly would make sense if you get rid of James Harden, but you have to figure out the packaging. Perhaps Philadelphia can go get enough for Harden in terms of returning assets to then reflip those out to the Blazers. The Nets have long been a team because of his relationship, Damian Lillard that is, with Mikal Bridges, nice up-and-coming team. They have a ton of tradable picks from the Harden deal, from the Durant deal. They've got a lot of draft capital that they could give up. But I think Miami's the team, if we're talking about who takes the biggest leap immediately with Damian Lillard on the roster, if they can get that deal done for an expiring Kyle Lowry, perhaps a Tyler Hero, and a couple picks, I think they become the team that would become probably the favorite in the Eastern Conference.
And that was going to be my last question before I let you go. So if that all came to fruition and Dame did go to South Florida, South Beach out there in Key Biscayne, and so then you would favor them over Milwaukee, favor them over Boston, at least on paper?
I would. Yeah, I mean, Damian Lillard is a top tier player. He had the best year of his career, you could argue, last year. So he's still at that peak level. To me, they would be the best team in the Eastern Conference. They have the best coach. They have the best point guard. They've got Jimmy Butler, who's one of the best playoff players in the league, if not the best on any given night. Yeah, they would be the best team to me. I mean, listen, with Milwaukee, they got Chris Middleton back. We still don't know if Brook Lopez is coming back. And we don't know about what's going to happen with the Sixers. I do like the Porzingis deal with Boston. It would be really a fun race. But yeah, I would give the edge to Miami. Just a little bit to circle back to the Portland situation. Yesterday, they gave a 5-year, $160 million deal to Jeremy Grant. I wrote that Damian Lillard got him paid. They were effectively trying to make Lillard stay. I think with that deal, that's a big deal to give to a third option player for 5 years, that they're now on the hook for it, a $32 million average annual salary for a team that could be potentially going into a rebuild. That's a Tobias Harris-like anchor. And I have to wonder if the Blazers kind of did that, because we have to have everybody back in order to have any chance of keeping Dame. And then the very next day, trade request. I wrote that was the risk in signing that deal, and I didn't know it was going to happen this quick, but whoa.
Check out that write-up on CBSSports.com from our guy, Brad Botkin. Brad, certainly appreciate it, my man. Thank you.